Hello, boys and girls. We are going to be working today on a neat hand illusion. I have a piece of white paper here in front of me. I would love for you to find a piece of white paper if you can. If you need to use a piece of colored paper, that would work too. Lined paper would work if that's the only thing you have at home. But if you can find a piece of paper that does not have any lines on it, that would be even better. So I've got my paper vertically in front of me. You could have yours horizontally. You could turn it this way if you want to, but I'm going to use my paper vertically today. And we're going to create a hand illusion. It's going to look like our hand is rising up kind of from out of that paper. It's a pretty fun illusion, and it's got a few steps, but it's not very complicated. So that makes it kind of fun too, because you can just follow some steps and keep going, and your illusion looks really neat in the end. So I'm going to first put my hand on this paper in line with the paper. So I like to sometimes do things that are off center or diagonal, but for this particular illusion, it doesn't work as well if your hand is diagonal or off center. So I'm going to put my hand pretty much straight up and down here on my paper. And then I'm going to trace from the very edge of the paper carefully along my arm and around all of my fingers. And then I'll go off the edge of the paper again, which you'll see in just a minute, okay? There's probably going to be a little bump out where my ring is, but that's fine. I think that's kind of fun. You'll notice I'm holding my pencil pretty high. I'm not holding my pencil close to the pencil lead, which I would if I were writing my name or doing other kinds of drawing maybe, but I'm holding my pencil pretty high up so my fingers don't get in the way of my tracing. You can see that if I hold the pencil this way. Now I have my hand drawn. I used probably medium pressure to draw my hand, which works pretty well. And the next step we're going to do is going to require a ruler. So if you have a ruler, this would be a great time to pause the video and get your ruler. If you don't have a ruler, you can use anything that has a straight edge on it, okay? Let's see, a good example would be like a strong piece of paper or a strong piece of rigid cardboard. Or if you have a cereal box that you can collapse, you know, if you pull both ends out and flatten your cereal box, one of the edges of a cereal box would work really well. You just want something that's going to help you make a nice straight line for this next step. I'm not going to make any marks on the edges of my paper. If you want to, you can, but I'm just going to kind of eyeball or estimate about 1 inch increments. So you can see on my ruler how much 1 inch is here from any number to the next number. So from 4 to 5 would be 1 inch, or 5 to 6, that would be 1 inch. I'm going to use my ruler to make straight lines going across my paper about every inch. Okay, so let's get started with that so you can see what we're talking about here. So I'm about 1 inch from the top of my paper right now, and you'll notice there's no part of my hand that is being interrupted by my ruler. That means I can just draw my line across my paper without stopping. Okay, I can just keep that line going all the way across. Now the next inch down, there's the tip of my finger there that's kind of interrupting my ruler. So when I draw my line, I'm going to stop at the tip of my finger, lift my pencil, and then start again at the tip of that finger and go to the other side. And then about 1 inch below that, look at that, I've got 3 fingers now that I need to work around. So I'm going to start at the edge, stop at the first finger, make my line in between those first 2 fingers, make my line in between the second 2 fingers, and then go from that 3rd finger all the way to the edge. Can you see how those lines are working? I'm stopping my horizontal lines every time I get to my hand, okay? We're just gonna keep doing that all the way down the page. So I'm looking here at my next line, where my next line's going to be, and I get to stop at all 4 fingers this time. We'll go from the edge to the first finger, between the first set, between the second set, between the third set, and from that 4th finger to the edge. Now when I get down to this next line, I'm going to stop in just a couple places. So I'll go from here to that pinky finger, from my pinky to the ring finger, and then this is part of my hand. So I'm not going to make a line there because I don't want to run over top of my hand either with straight lines. I'm just going to grab this spot right here at the edge of my finger and go to the edge of the page. About an inch later, I've got a lot of hand there in the middle of that picture, so I'm going to go from the edge to the edge of my hand, from the edge of my paper to the edge of my hand, then from the edge of my hand on the other side to my thumb, and from my thumb to the edge of the paper. This next line is just interrupted by the width of my hand, so I'm going to go from the edge to my hand, from my hand on the other side to the edge of the paper, and that's what we're going to find pretty much all the way down here. I'll end up stopping just once, it looks like. Go from the edge to my hand, other side of my hand to the paper edge on the other side, and now I'm pretty much down to the wrist part of my hand, and I'm not going to draw my straight lines over the wrist either. I'll stop at the wrist, start again on the other side, and it looks like I have room for one more line here towards the bottom of my paper. I just have a little space here on the left side, and then we'll have a pretty long line on the right. Now where I stopped here in between my straight lines, we're going to do something different. So from this straight line to this one, where that line would overlap my finger, instead of continuing the straight line, I'm going to put a curve. I'm going to curve up and then curve back down. So I'm connecting this part of the straight line with this part of the straight line, but I'm doing that with a rainbow style curve, okay? And we're going to do that in every spot where those lines meet our fingers or our hand. So up here I've got a spot, I can fit a little rainbow curve there. Right here I have a spot to put a curve. Right here I have a spot to put a curve. Do you see those curved lines showing up? Now we're going to go to this next section. I need a curve here, and here, and here, and here, all the way across my fingers. Then I need one here across this finger as well. And now this part is a little different, isn't it? From here to here, it's like a whole section of my hand. So I'm going to put like a gentle curve that goes from one side to the other there. I don't want to run over those spots in between my fingers, because that won't quite look right later on. So that one has to be kind of a more shallow or less poofy curve. The next section is just hand, so I'm going to get to do a curve just from one side to the other across my hand there, and then I get to catch a curve here for my thumb. From here to here is just hand, so we're going to just curve all the way from that spot to this one. Same here, and the same here. This is more my wrist, but it's the same idea. And here down at the very bottom. Now hopefully, as you look at that drawing, you can already start to see the illusion. It looks like the hand is rising up out of the paper because we have flat lines on the paper and curved lines, which make it look like that hand is kind of rising up out of the paper a little bit. To make our design a little more fun, I decided to use some markers and add color to my design. I've got 5 markers here. I'm going to add 5 different colors to my design. Now the color needs to follow the pencil that I already have. So where my pencil lines are straight, my color lines need to be straight, and where my pencil lines curve, my color lines need to curve. So I'm going to use my colors, I'm going to use my ruler as well, and get one set of pattern lines onto my paper here. I think I'm just going to pick a middle section. So I'm going to actually use my ruler here and line it up with my straight lines. I'm going to follow my ruler with my yellow marker because that's the color I just decided I'm going to use first. And then I want to follow my curved line with my yellow marker as well. And I'm going to do that same thing with all of my markers. I chose to use a green next. So I'm going to do green next on my line here. I like doing the straight parts first and then moving my ruler. You might be able to draw right over top of your ruler. You might be able to make those curved lines happen right over top of your ruler, but I can't do that very well. I don't feel like, so I'm moving my ruler so it works out a little better for me. And I've got purple next. Let's get my purple line on here. There's this, oops, my straight part's gonna be a little wiggly there. I've got that straight line, and then the straight line coming from that side. I've got a little white space in between my colors. You could do that if you want to, or you could put them right next to each other. It's up to you. The illusion will look nice either way. And I have orange I'm going to use as well. Go across the straight part. Move my ruler so I can do the curve better. And then I have a blue marker that I'm going to use as my last color. That's one of the reasons, boys and girls, I only did the lines every inch or so, because I knew that I wanted to put colored stripes sort of on my drawing, and I needed some room for those colors in between. So we've got the blue straight lines, and we're going to get the blue curved line here next. And now we've got a whole kind of colored section. It looks a little funny right now, I think, with color just in one part, but I'm going to do the color on all of my lines, and I think what I'll do is I'll start with yellow right at each of my pencil lines and then work my way up through my pattern, but I'll probably end up with a little bit of white space in between this pattern chunk and the next pattern chunk and the next pattern chunk, and that's fine. We'll see what it looks like in the end, and if I want to change it and do something different or add some more color, I sure can. I think what I'll do is pause our video now, do a fast motion version of putting all the color on, and then I'll come back and talk to you and we'll take a look at what that looks like with all the color on. Process-wise, I think I'm going to do all the yellow first. So I just get all the yellow done, and then I'll do all the green and then all the purple, and I'll just work my way up in a pattern like that. So when you see the fast motion video, you'll notice that part. All right, let's see what it looks like in color, and I'll talk to you in a minute. Welcome back, boys and girls. It, of course, looked really fast in that fast motion video, but I do want you to know that especially as I was doing those curved lines, I was really moving quite slowly to try to get the curves where they should be. So make sure when you're doing your own work that you're not rushing, not trying to create your own fast motion in real life. I noticed a few things I wanted to point out to you when I was doing those straight lines and curves with my marker. One of the things was I ran out of finger in some spots. On my pinky finger and on my middle finger here, I got a few of those colors, but then eventually I didn't have any more fingers, so I just did straight lines above those two fingers. So I thought I would point that out because you might have that situation on your project as well. The other thing that happened that I wasn't, that I was kind of surprised about is like this spot where my pinky finger curves and then my hand curves, I couldn't really fit the straight line in here because the orange straight line is down below. So I tried to just make it look like we couldn't see it, like it would be behind or underneath my hand. I just sort of stopped my orange and my blue and then restarted right here. You can decide if you want to do that sort of thing as well if you run into that issue with your hand. And then down here where my straight lines ran into my arm, it was a little tricky to connect those colors eventually. The yellow was fine, the green was fine, the purple, I was a little outside my arm line here. And then the orange, if I put my line in this spot, I couldn't get my orange to connect to it with the curve. So I don't think that's really a problem. I just thought I would point that out to you because there are a couple times as you are creating your own hand illusion that you might have to make some artistic decisions about what to do in certain places. Now that most of the color is on my drawing, I'm going to make an artistic decision about this part of my arm down here at the bottom. I didn't have enough space to put another straight line, so I don't have a straight line at the very, very bottom of my paper, but because the curves go up, I feel like this space looks a little bit empty. And so I'm gonna do my pattern in reverse, starting at the top with the blue down here, and I'm gonna put that blue curve where I think it would be if my paper was longer, okay? And that blue curve stopped right here, so I'm actually gonna use my ruler and create a blue line going straight across my paper from that spot. And then of course, if I have my blue on there and I still have room, I should follow that with my orange. So I'll put an orange curve here. You can see how slowly I'm drawing those curves. It didn't look that way, of course, in that fast motion video, but I am drawing those curves slowly to try to be purposeful about what they look like. After orange, traveling down my pattern is purple, so I'll put a purple curve in here. And then we can connect that purple going across. I'm just about out of paper with my straight lines here, but I think I can fit the green with my straight lines, and I might be able to fit the green even, or the yellow even on my curves. All right, so let's get this green in here with the curved line, and then put it along the bottom of the paper. I'll run out of paper, I think. I kind of ran out of paper on the straight lines, but I can get this last little bit, I think, of yellow in here. I might be able to get just a little bit of yellow there too. My last lines weren't perfectly parallel with my paper, but I think the illusion is still there. So I feel like that's more finished now with the extra colors there at the bottom. At this point, boys and girls, you could take a look at your work and decide, is it finished? Do you want to add anything else? There is room, of course, here to add another color or two if you wanted to add another color or two, or you could try a little bit of shading if you wanted to experiment with shading. Sometimes people like to take a black marker and trace around the outside of their hand so it's a little easier to see where the hand is. I kind of like having the illusion just stand by itself, so I think I'm actually going to take an eraser and erase all of my pencil lines so that you can't see the pencil lines anymore, and then we'll get to see just what happens with only the marker and the curves and the straight lines. And there it is, our finished hand illusion, where the hand looks like it's rising out of the paper. I hope you enjoy creating that illusion yourselves at home, boys and girls, and I'm excited to see your work. Thanks so much.